Welcome back everyone. Today we'll be beginning with the week 4 of the course Strategic Sales Management. If you remember, in the last week we precisely had a discussion about the key influences as per the Miller-Hemans approach, in which we discussed starting from the buying influences to the sales funnel. So as far as today's session is concerned, we'll be discussing about the buyer persona and consumer and B2B decision making processes. So as far as this module is concerned, once we are done, you will definitely be able to prepare buyer personas for your prospects in both offline and online settings. Apart from that, you will also be able to fathom consumer and B2B decision making processes and what is the role of salesmen in these processes, and finally difference between B2C and B2B selling. Now when you start understanding the concept of buyer persona, if you ask me in a very simplistic way, we can say it is all about defining your target consumer. And even if you go back and look at the Miller's Hemans key influences or the factors that impact strategic selling, they had a factor called as building ideal customer profile. So buyer persona can be treated as synonymous to that. It is more about understanding who your ideal customer is going to be, and you start defining them in terms of, let's say if you start writing what will be their characteristics, you will precisely write their demographics, like what is their income level, what is their gender, what could be their educational qualifications, or what could be their marital status, whether they are single or married, because in some categories even this could make a difference. Like let's say if Zomato and Swiggy are trying to identify their ideal customers, a major chunk could be those people who are single, not married and living alone, because they might be into more of ordering the food online. As well as you define their behavioral profile, which basically comes from the fact how they have been behaving actually with respect to their buying behavior. Like if they went to a grocery store, how would their basket look like, or what have been their actual preferences of the products and services which they have been buying. Even when you talk about segmentation, the class of predictive segmentation, which is actually built on the actual behavior of shoppers with respect to what they buy or what they consume. Even when you talk about recreational activities, what is it that they like most, you might have a certain category who could be more glued to OTT platforms, and you might have a certain category who could be more into adventurous stuff, or maybe you can say hiking trips or something like that. So the product requirements for these, even the sales effort or sales pitches are going to be entirely different. So to put it in a very simplistic way, a buyer persona is a research based profile that depicts the target consumer. As I just said, it is more like defining your ideal consumer. And alternatively, we can also say that whenever you are preparing a buyer persona, you are going to attach utmost importance to their demographics and behavioral profile. Now one thing again which becomes important is, why do we actually need to understand buyer personas, or maybe in other words we can say, why do they matter? If you ask me personally, primarily it has only been in digital domain, because see, you might have a certain consumer who could be an ideal target if you are talking about their preferences, which could be more aligned with, let's say, LinkedIn. You might have someone who could be more aligned with respect to Facebook if we want to reach out to them. Like someone could be more suitable on Instagram. Suitable as in not with respect to what they prefer, for the product which we want to pitch them. Like for more of recreational products, or let's say the products which are very high on aesthetics, let's say a branded apparel, we would more prefer to reaching out to people who are on Instagram rather than people who are on LinkedIn, right? Maybe you come up with a specific product category, let's say, which is only suited to CEOs, or it is of for very elite class or very expensive. In that case, LinkedIn might work. So this is another thing which we need to understand, that buyer personas primarily matter because they help you to, one, prepare effective content strategies for your targeted audience, or maybe coming up with content which could be very effective for the target audience, and it helps you identify your profitable prospects or customers. As again I would say, we had primarily discussed about the ideal customer profile, which in sales or strategic selling is always prepared after taking account of your most profitable customers. You look at their key characteristics and then you try to map the others which could be included as a part of in the funnel, or who do you think are going to be profitable in long term and will help in creating a win-win situation. Now as we move forward, we'll definitely look at certain factors which could be more aligned with buyer personas and selling. So how buyer personas can be truly beneficial for salespeople. So the first is they help you understand prospects and customers on a deeper level. It is more like understanding why is it that your customers buy, why they buy certain products. In a way we can also put it across like that. So see, when you have prepared an ideal profile of your customers, you are definitely going to dig deep what is it that motivates them to buy your products. Then this will help you understand and devise strategies to preparing sales presentations, that what is it that you include and what is it that you should not include, or how you should be pitching them. Maybe you can say what could be your unique selling proposition. Let's say if you have a certain prospect who is more fussy about pricing, then his whole discussion is going to be about that, and your role as a salesperson is also going to be making him understand how this product is going to be price friendly for you in long term, even when the initial investment could be high. The other thing is, when you prepare very concrete buyer personas after doing right kind of research and investing a lot of time, it will again help you identify the unique pain points. Let's say prospect could be bothered about, or your existing customers could be, maybe let's say they were in this problem and then they purchase your product, right? Then when you go ahead and pitch further prospects, this is something which is going to be very useful and beneficial for you. As I was just telling you, when you have understood your prospects or customers on a deeper level and you know their pain points, it is again going to help you a great deal, even with respect to what you speak to them on phone, face to face interactions, and definitely presentations. See, if you remember the earlier sessions with respect to the presentation and demonstration part, when we were understanding the sales process, and if you recollect the objections part, you will understand how important this is going to be. When you know your buyer personas very clearly, very concretely, and in great depth, you will definitely also have an idea about what are the kind of objections that they might have, and then you can handle them quite well or quite efficiently in your presentations. Now the benefits are not just related to taking advantage of this information while pitching or selling products, right? This is also going to help you a great deal in training the sales team better, right? Let's say if you prepare a certain sales team who's only going to, maybe we can say, interact with people who have a very high net worth, then one thing which we can prepare them for is making the clients feel special or the prospect feel special, if it is going to be the first interaction or they haven't purchased from us till now, about making them feel special. The other thing could be pricing may not be a pain point for them, so the focus has to be on giving them the best quality of services and eventually making them feel that it is only you that matter for us, or maybe you can say giving them an extra special treatment, because you know when it comes to the net worth, how this particular prospect or customer could be important for us with respect to our future selling propositions also. Another thing is, when you have understood who your ideal customer will look like, it is definitely going to help you exclude those people who may not be profitable in long term, or with whom you will not be able to create a win-win situation. So this is another benefit, because now you are only investing your precious selling time on people who you know are going to be a win-win case for you, then spending it on people who could be burdensome for an organization, or who could just suck up the resources and may not contribute much. And as and when you follow all these factors, it is definitely going to enhance your win rates, sales conversion, and will also help you understand how you can appeal to different customers, because it is entirely going to be on the basis of different buyer personas, or maybe when you are targeting different segments, you will be able to understand, okay, this is something which is going to work with this segment, and this is something which is going to work with this segment, and this might not work for these segments. So in a way you also understand what are the inhibitors that might not work for them, or maybe you can say, if you have this element, this could be a deal breaker, so something like that. And anyway, to put it or to sum up, we can say it eventually helps you understand your customers motives well, and this information again is going to be very beneficial for a salesperson at different stages, starting from when we start interactions with them. Now what are the points you should keep in mind while creating buyer personas. Even as a salesman, your contribution is going to be very high in that. So the first is goal. This is more about understanding what is it that your prospect or customer is trying to achieve in life. Now, achieve in life, this could be literal also, or maybe you can give it a meaning which can be aligned with business. Because when we are dealing with customers, if Myntra is thinking about sales, then they might also consider what is it that the person is trying to achieve in life. Let's say if he wants to be an influencer, or he or she just wants to stand out in the crowd, then they might come up with more of products for them and sales pitches for them, which will have more of communication aspect, which may make them feel okay, if you wear these clothes you are definitely going to be noticed in that room, or people are going to look at you or notice you, something like that. If you translate it into business aspect, you might have someone whose core objective or goal in life is to increase the production efficiency as far as their organization is concerned. Then that buyer persona is going to have more aspect of that. You're also required to understand their psychographic profile, which simply means you will try to understand the activities, interest and opinions. Now you might say how this is going to matter. I think I'll give you one example which might put a lot of things in perspective. Maybe we can talk about the opinion. Now you get this information, there are two segments of people, right? And they have this particular income level, let's say maybe 1.5 lakhs a month or maybe more than that, and you think of coming up with a restaurant for them if their population is quite high or the segment is quite notable in respect of future profitability, right? Now let's say you are wondering whether the restaurant is going to be a non-veg, veg or both with respect to the food items that you are going to have in your menu. Now let's get to the opinion part and understand how this is going to make a lot of difference. Now you have one segment who is more aligned towards veganism. Now just imagine how the food preferences are going to be very different. You might even realize if the count of people who are more oriented towards veganism is very high and they are even willing to spend more or maybe beyond a certain price point, then you might consider them more profitable and you might go ahead with them. So the whole idea is about understanding you might have people who could be very similar in different demographics, but their activities, interest and opinions could bring in a lot of different. Apart from that, you are also required to understand their personal background, like which gender they belong to, their age group, because see, your consumption or your preference for products is definitely going to change with respect to which age group you are in. Your occupation level, income level as in if you have a higher segment of income, then that particular segment is definitely might be interested in buying products which are certain price point. Like let's consider the example of chick shampoo. It was basically developed or kind of became popular for people who were not able to afford the expensive bottles. Apart from that, their educational qualifications, their marital status, all these things are again going to make a lot of difference. As I just gave you the example how for Swiggy or Zomato, the people who are single could be a more of an attractive target audience, because they know that people things are going to work more with respect to the number of orders that they might place in a day, in a week or in a month. Apart from that, you are also going to consider what is their contact preference, whether they prefer, first that the appointment should be taken on call, or you can reach out to them on mail, or maybe they would be preferring a personal visit. And finally, what is their shopping preference, offline or online, because in this case again the ways you reach out to them are going to be entirely very different. In case of online, they might prefer buying on Instagram. Then again, everything with respect to what is your product category, what are the communication mechanisms that you are using are going to be entirely different with respect to the offline segment. The people who prefer purchasing offline in a way also indicates they might have a preference for handling the product, right? They may prefer, okay, I want to touch and feel the product. Now even if you have such customers, who might prefer purchasing online and they might have a very high need for touch, then for those customers we definitely need to build a platform where the product diagnosticity is going to be very high. Then again, virtual reality or maybe how they can look at products with respect to in 3D formats is going to be a solution. And see, even if you look at all these online platforms, let's say Myntra, Amazon, Flipkart, now what they have started doing is they have started putting product videos. They even encourage the buyers to put product videos in with respect to the comments where reviews are given, so that the people are able to see and evaluate the products in a better way. So this is another thing which is going to make a difference. Now, apart from that, these are four factors which again you need to understand while building buyer personas. Triggers, what gets them thinking about your product category. Let's say if I ask you about food, then I tell you what is the first thing that comes to your mind. Someone might say, okay, this restaurant comes to my mind. Someone might say even Zomato and Swiggy. This again indicates how much they could be dependent upon ordering online, right? Drivers, what motivates them to act. Now when you identify what is it that motivates them to go ahead and buy a product, let's say if you ask people who usually use iPhone, right, they might say, okay, price is not something that stops them or inhibits them from buying an iPhone. They might say the services that the product offers, or maybe high screen resolution or security of data that it provides is going to be one of the drivers that drives me, right? Then this information can again be used by the salesman or maybe by the organizations in the integrated marketing communications that they have to pitch the prospects or customers. Then the third thing is, when you are able to identify what they don't like in your product, one thing is you can work on them to kind of include those customers also into your prospects. Otherwise you can come up with a better version who could be a little more improved. The last is, what is it that stops them from buying your product or closing your deal. Now this is again one thing which you need to work on, because this in a way is going to be very beneficial for salesmen. Let's say this could be a psychological barrier, right, not something which is actual. Now the salesperson can use this information when they are interacting with prospects and customers, and can definitely break this barrier, which can eventually be a way to towards closing the deal. So another thing which you really need to understand is how you can actually create buyer persona. We are basically trying to understand this perspective from an organization standpoint. Like, one thing is, they should definitely be investing in research. They should try to kind of do a lot of interviews with their customers, even the past customers, maybe let's say who left them, or definitely the ones who are more profitable for them, so that they can know, oh, these are their key characteristics, and they can use them for further building buyer personas. The other way could be maintenance of databases. See, if you are recording each and every move of your customers or even the prospects, let's say, who are taking a lot of time asking you a lot of questions with respect to the offerings, your products and your services, this, if this is regularly updated in databases, then this information again is going to be very beneficial for you in creating buyer personas. Apart from that, regularly interview your customers. Ask them questions. What is it that they like in the product? What is it that they like in the organization? Or even what is it that made them buy the product with respect to competitors? And now you can definitely think about the perspective how beneficial this is going to be. Other thing is, you should always have a dynamic CRM, which means that you should always encourage your salespeople to update it regularly. It's not like in the last 1 year it has only been updated once or twice. Then this information again is not going to be very useful in kind of creating buyer personas, because see, with time, with respect to, let's say, changing economic conditions or new competitors entering into the market, even changing social fabric or some technology which you are selling going obsolete because competitor has come up with something which is very advanced, things are definitely going to change for you also as a seller. So if your CRM is very dynamic and it requires regular update of information, only then it is going to work. Apart from that, use your prospects, the current prospects that salesperson is kind of interacting with. Try to get an idea about, okay, what is it that stops them from buying, or what is it that they like in the current offering, or how even this can be improved. Now this will also help you in creating buyer personas. Use referrals. The party which you were interacting with, he knew someone in the same industry who was a kind of a prospect for you. Go and interact with them. Use different referrals, meet different people, and try to find out what is it that is working for your offering. And you're also required to sketch a profile of your buyers or prospective buyers with respect to how much profitable they can be, right? Because see, you worked out on a profile, but later on you realized everything is on point, the deals are being closed on time rather faster, but the profitability is very low. Now this again is something which is not going to work for you, right? And finally, use your current customers especially the ones who are profitable, because the whole idea of creating a buyer persona is you're trying to create an ideal customer profile with respect to demographics, behavioral information, but keeping profitability in mind. As I just told you, if you are making a lot of deals and that too they don't turn out to be profitable in long term, this is definitely a bad business for you as well as your organization, right? So this is another thing which you need to keep in mind. A buyer persona should be, identifying the characteristics of someone who is profitable for you, or in a way, as we have been talking in technical language, with whom you are able to create a win-win situation, if not now currently, definitely in long term. Now another question which might trigger you is how buyer personas might differ in offline and online settings. See, if you look at it from a very fundamental perspective, whether it is offline or online, the only difference which it might make is about their preferences with respect to the buying platforms, right? Someone might prefer placing the order online or through the mechanisms which is entirely online, or someone might prefer we'll come and take the product, we want to be delivered in a different way, something like that. But buyer personas usually are very product specific, right? You are trying to identify the ideal customer for your product or service, or maybe whatever offering you have for the prospects or customers. So this is one thing which you should keep in mind. It definitely is product specific. Now you might have a product which could work more, or maybe might work well in online settings. Like let's say if you come up with a new apparel brand, right, and you might not prefer opening the stores in different cities because you know that it is definitely going to be a lot more costly, and you might not even touch up those profits, or might not even touch break even point in the initial years or months or days, no matter how you want to look at it. In that case you might prefer, okay, let's first launch it on Instagram, or maybe let me start selling it through an online platform, whether it is Myntra, Flipkart or Amazon. So these things might make a difference, but you always have to be sure it is primarily going to be product specific. And even when you are looking at online and offline settings, then again will depend upon what is your product and the customer or the prospect. See, if your customer is not having the skill set to place an order online, then again it is not going to work. Let's say if an organization comes up with a specific product which is meant for senior citizens in India, when we know they might not have that skill set to look for information or buy that product online, things may not work. So these are a few things which I want you to keep in mind. Apart from that, let's work towards creating a buyer persona. Maybe let's create it for someone, as I have talked about it once or twice in ongoing session. Maybe if you are trying to, let's say you come up with a competitor for Swiggy or Zomato, then how do you think your ideal customer will look like? See, we might specify on the skill set to place orders online, right? We'll say, okay, the person definitely has a smartphone and has the consumer skills to place orders online, make payments and do all these things. Apart from that, you might also see their income level, then you might also see their marital status. As I was telling you, if they are single, they might have more of, in terms of numbers of orders placed, that could be more. Or you might also see their job demand. Let's say if you have someone whose job demands them to be from, let's say, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. or something like that, then in a way it also indicates they might have some kind of dependence, maybe on these online delivery service providers. Apart from that, we also need to see their goal in life, because this again would differentiate what is it that you are going to pitch them on platforms. Let's say if the person is very health conscious, then you will definitely try to come up with a menu for them which will keep all these factors in mind, like maybe let's say salads or something which is more healthier. Whereas if you have someone who's more into junk food, you will definitely have that kind of palette for them. So these factors are definitely going to make a lot of difference with respect to the audience or prospects that you are going to reach out with respect to selling your products. So see, maybe you can look at this buyer persona of a person, Solomon Faruqi. What it says is software developer, age 26. Now if you look at goals, it is to purchase a bicycle, to commute, create an Instagram fitness profile, keep up with latest fitness trends, extrovert, sensor, thinker. These are the favorite brands. So the point is, this information definitely indicates that he is someone who is very health conscious. Now, just imagine how companies can use this, especially those companies who are coming up with these online gadgets, or maybe you can say these watches which also track fitness parameters. So this is one thing where it can be used. Apart from that, let's say if there is a particular brand which is trying to come up with options for, very healthy breakfast or that kind of a product line or product range. Now these information again is going to be very, very useful for them. Now if you come up with the product which anyway could be very good in taste but might have less of elements with respect to health, you definitely know that this particular buyer persona is not going to fit in that particular category. Now look at the next snapshot which you can actually see on the screen, which is of Julie M, 36, married. She's a freelance graphic designer, and it also specifies that she stays at home for most of the day. It is not an easy job to take care of 3-year and 5-year-old. Now see, this anyway indicates, if you look at a buyer persona, that she doesn't have much time in the day even when she is staying at home. Now if you look at the further information with respect to the dissatisfaction points, it says that if she has to commute, it is a time wastage for her, and the closest target outlet is 30 minutes. Now she can be a very good, prospective for all those apps who could commit, okay, we'll be making 10-minute deliveries or faster deliveries, and you don't even have to come to our stores or something like that. See, so the whole idea of building a buyer persona is about checking what kind of people could be the best prospects for your product or services that you want to offer them. As a part of an assignment, or maybe just to make you think more about it, maybe you can take any particular product idea which could be futuristic, and then you can start working on the buyer persona for that. If you are interested, you can also share that with us, or maybe put it across the forum, and we'll be definitely happy to read about it. But to sum up, buyer personas are very essential, not just in sales but even for companies who are into different businesses, because it eventually helps you understand who is going to be profitable for you in long term, precisely and only when it is prepared after doing the right kind of research, or maybe deeply understanding the profiles of your most profitable customers. Now when you look at it precisely from sales, it is definitely going to help them design best of their sales pitches, and when they are going from demonstrations, it will also help them understand what is it that they should present as their unique selling proposition, and what is it that they should kind of downplay, or what is it that they should not come up across as a bigger, maybe you can say, discussion point, if it is not much related with their buyer persona. So as far as this session is concerned, I really hope you found it quite enriching and interesting, especially with respect to understanding the part of buyer personas and how they can make more of an impact with respect to the sales dynamics. So as we'll move forward, or maybe in the next session, we'll be definitely talking about the consumer and B2B decision making processes. So thanking you for now.